All right. Welcome to the podcast. Hello.
What's up?
Hello. Hello.
Middle of the summer.
It is.
Here we are.
It's quite warm.
End of June.
Thank the Lord for air conditioning.
Man.
I'm glad you said that. It's my
Indoor
mom's
spaces.
birthday. I should call her today.
Hey.
Oh, is it?
Hey,
Today?
June 30. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Mama.
Happy
Man,
birthday.
she deserves an extra present for dealing with your dad.
Minnie.
My man, Ronnie. Always tells me, he said, I'm going to bring my Mustang up here and give you a ride. Still waiting on it, Ronnie. Hello. Testing. Check. 1, 2.
You have to call and remind him.
You think that's what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll probably call him and remind him and he'll drive his tractor up here or something. Like, yeah, that's not what I was looking
Yeah.
for. Yeah, I don't want to drive your tractor.
Hey, tell him to leave the dog at home when he brings the car.
Oh, he always has that dog with
It's
him.
crazy.
Yeah.
It was my mom's birthday present like 5-6 years ago. I don't even know how.
The dog was to him?
To my mom.
Oh, he gave it to
From
yeah.
my dad.
Oh.
But the dog is everywhere with him.
Nice.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll come up here and scrape it'll be freezing, scraping, and he's got that dog with him.
Yeah. He'll go through McDonald's to get the dog a cheeseburger, but not himself.
No way.
And then they're like, she doesn't feel so good today.
Oh,
You think?
no. Man. Well, that's good, though. You've given me some good information on your dad. So.
Yeah.
And that's something to
He
give him a
loves
hard
that
time.
dog.
Oh, yeah. I'll give him a hard time over that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's hard to believe. I feel like this is every summer, but it's hard to believe we're already like halfway through the summer.
Oh, I
We've
know.
already gone to
Yeah.
camp and back, and
I mean, yeah. Because normally when you go to camp and get back from youth camp, it's like summer's over.
yeah, pretty much.
You're just looking at the end of, because, around here, though, as soon as July hits, everybody's into camp, everybody's into, everything starts.
Mm-hmm.
That's just crazy, man. We did not do that.
Yeah, it's wild. But we're also, I guess, halfway through our Summer in the Psalm series.
Summer in
as
the
well.
Psalms, we are.
How you feeling about the way it's going overall? Is it about what you were thinking of? I don't know what I'm asking. Is what you were
Is
thinking
it
when
everything
you
you
planned?
thought it would be?
Everything
Yeah.
you hoped and dreamed.
How's it going? Do you like it? Yeah, I mean, I think it's. I mean, I've enjoyed it. I think it's fine. I think it. I don't like the only thing I don't like about doing series like this is the beautiful thing about exposition and like preaching through a book, as I don't have to wonder where I'm going to be the next week.
Yeah.
Like you're just trucking through a book, man, and it's one feeds on the other and feeds on the other and feeds on the other, and a series sometimes can feel like they're one-offs.
Yeah.
But I've had people comment that they've enjoyed it. They've enjoyed spending, because Psalms is just a weird book where you don't think about spending a lot of time in Psalms unless you're wanting to hear how somebody felt about something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So which that's not my greatest
enough.
attribute is I don't really want to hear how somebody felt about something. But it's not that. It's so much more than that.
Yeah.
Do you know a book
And I think that's more of why I ask it too, because the Psalms is like, you think of the worship leader loving the Psalms,
Right,
or
yeah.
the creative
All
person.
feely and
yeah,
yeah.
it's not your MO.
You just ask it because I'm probably uncomfortable with it. That's exactly why you ask it. You know a book I've never read?
What's that?
All right. So
Song of Solomon.
100%.
You've never read it?
Nope.
Jeff Pratt. Really?
Mm-mm. I started.
Couldn't get through it.
I did. No, man. I don't know. I mean, it's just weird. I don't know. It's the Holy Scriptures. I should probably
It
read
is. It's the living, breathing Word of God.
Oh, it absolutely is. But I mean, I'm just like, man, come on, Solomon. What's up, dude? Like, I'm good, bro. I don't know. I don't understand. I don't know. I just yeah, not a book I'm probably gonna do preach. I don't know.
Yeah.
Never preached a message out of the Song of Solomon.
All right. Challenge for 2026.
Just read it. Just do it.
I want a message from it.
Yeah. A Wednesday night series.
Yeah, there you go.
On the Song of Solomon. I don't know.
Nice.
Do you know back, man, how many years ago was it 20 years ago? Do you remember that one? Was it Tommy Nelson? Became very popular because he did a series on the Song of Solomon.
Mm.
And I think Lifeway may have produced it.
Yeah.
But the reason I know him or know of him is because a buddy of mine, Troy Ratcliffe, was on staff at a church in the Dallas area, and I think he was in that area and Troy had a connection to him or something. But yeah, I mean, like he became. Is it? Did you look it up? Is that Tommy Nelson, Song of Solomon?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought it was. And it was
95, so that was 30 years ago.
Okay, thank you. Was it really 95?
Yeah, that's what it says.
Googly moogly.
Yep.
That's crazy, dude.
Were you even born?
Yeah, I was 2 years old.
A wee toddler.
2.
Man.
Hudson is currently older than I was when
95,
that came
dude.
out.
95. Where was I in 95? I don't know. Probably lasting 2 years in some church because I thought I was right about everything. But yeah, no, let's see. We were probably middle Georgia back then. But yeah, it's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
I was telling somebody the other day, I said, man, you want to know a decade? I think I told you guys this the other day. A really bad decade was the 90s.
Hey.
Music, stuff like that,
born
dude.
in the 90s.
It was so bad.
Yeah. Then I came into the world and perfected it. Is what
Yes,
it
you
is.
did.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tommy Nelson did that. It was a great, tried to make it a little more family friendly and
Good luck.
Yeah, I know. But it's a great book. It talks about Christ's love for us and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But number one.
How do you know that?
Lovey-dovey feeling.
How do I know that?
You didn't read
Somebody told me. Cliff Notes. I read the Cliff Notes. That's a Cliff Note version on that one. I wonder if I'm trying to think if there's any other book of the Bible that I've not preached a sermon. No, I mean, I'm
Lamentations?
sure. No, I've no. Yeah, Jeremiah, Numbers, Deuteronomy.
You can get about 1 out of Jude.
Jude. Jude's an awesome book,
It
man.
really is.
Jude's the only book. I think this is right. The only book in the Bible that quotes the Book of Enoch. Direct quote.
Yeah. Hello. Back to hammering outside.
I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign that I mentioned
That
the
was
Book of
our
Enoch.
90s flashback. That's the hammer time.
Hammer time. Hammer time. Do. Let's see. Yeah. So you were kicking it in the 90s, right?
Yeah, I'd been married a year.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
95.
So did Joey have parachute pants?
What do you think?
No. I did though. I had a pair.
Never.
I had a pair. Zippers all over the place.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Did you have an earring?
Yes. You didn't know that?
No, I didn't.
Oh, yeah.
I had 2 in one ear. Before Christ. This is BC days.
Yeah.
But it's weird when I say that because I say that, but that cultural genre has changed so much over the years. Mm-hmm. Like back in the 80s, when I early 80s when I got my ear pierced, it was all about rebellion and like that wasn't the cultural thing back then. Because it was just looked at that way. I wasn't gonna get a tattoo, but I didn't mind getting my ear pierced. So, and then I got 2 because I was really cool. Yeah, had long. I mean, but I think I had long curly mullet.
I have seen that.
Yeah,
But it mattered what ear you put it into, right?
Left, you're right. Right, you're wrong.
Yeah,
that was the saying.
Left, you're right.
Yeah, right, you're wrong. So I had 2 in my left ear. Yeah. I wore a hoop. Well, it's a lot of times never mind.
You're extra right.
We won't go into all that, but yeah.
Did you have the earrings when you met Julie?
That's probably Julie. Like no.
I don't know if that's going to even come up on the mics, but
yeah.
If the listeners can't hear it, we keep getting bangings in the
yeah. That's a great. No, that's a really good question, and it leads to an interesting story. No, absolutely not. So I was at Carson Newman for a year. That Julie was there before we met. So I got saved in January of 1985. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, and then I met Julie the following October. All right. So that whole year she was there. So from August until January 11th, she and I were on campus together, and I was very lost, right? So the whole long hair, earrings, the whole 9 yards, right? And my tight schmedium orange shirt that had a wrestler on the front of it.
Oh no!
And my name on the back in block letters, Jeff. Who puts their first name on the back of a T-shirt?
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Was it screen
like the
print
fuzzy.
or embroidered?
No. Like you
Iron
just
on?
put
Iron
one on, iron on, put one on it, put one on it. So like the front was
Airbrushed?
like a wrestler that, and then the back was like black block felt
Jeff.
filling letters. Jeff. Hey, if anybody wonders, Jeff. So
Don't ask. Just look at the shirt.
No, yeah, 100%. Yeah, schmedium.
That is
And,
hilarious.
Wait, did you make it?
I think I put my name on it, but like I bought the wrestler shirt, you like, because it probably is like at a wrestling tournament or something, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, dude, they're gonna know who I am, bro. So I like went and bought the black fuzzy letters and figured out how to earn them on the back.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
I'm
I worked.
surprised your
Carson
dad
Newman.
didn't
So look,
take that off of you.
so I'm rolling.
Shred it.
Yeah. So I roll into Carson Newman, dude. Not even knowing the culture of Carson Newman, not even knowing. I knew it was a Baptist school, but that's all I knew. But I didn't care, man. And you know, and I didn't realize that the economic, socioeconomic level of people that would go there.
Yeah.
Because you had that level, then you had all the athletes, right? So yeah, I'm rolling in, dude. My polyester gym trunks and my schmedium orange shirt. So
Jeff.
Jeff. Yeah. Any questions, Jeff? So anyway, so we were there together for a pretty good while. Never met. All right. So check this out. Let me tell you how God worked. At Carson Newman, there used to be the old student building, which was right on the campus when you pull in by the girls' dorms. And on the main floor, it was a a couple pool tables, ping pong tables. Then the second level was a very small area, our post office. And so every Tuesday, you went to chapel because you had to go to like 15 chapels or you didn't get whatever. So we went to chapel, and as soon as chapel was out, we'd go across the street, go straight to our mailboxes because the mail would be delivered, and you would hope and you would get something. So I'd always go check my mail, not thinking I was going to get anything. Dad wouldn't send me no money or nothing. Even he sent me a letter, dude, postcard, nothing. So I would go check it anyway. So I checked so check this out. I'm telling you, this is the craziest thing. Mine and Julie's mailbox, right on top of each other. Right on top of each other.
Wow.
You cannot tell me that there weren't days after chapel that she and I were in there at the very same time, checking our mailbox at the very same time, and never, ever saw each other.
Wow.
Because here's why. If she would have seen me then, or she would have known me then, dude, wouldn't even give me the time of day. No way, dude.
I don't think Mr. Lay would have liked the look, the earring,
No, bro. Back then, I'm not sure he was crazy about the saved part of it.
Yeah, right.
you know. So it wasn't like, no. So it wasn't like, oh my word, dude, no. Well, I mean, she would just look. I mean, no, because it was just. I think about that so much, and I think, you know what, like, because the Lord knew, man, like you're just not going to meet her right now.
Yep.
Like you're not even going to know she exists, and she doesn't need to know you exist right now.
Yep.
Until a year later, right? We're in the cafeteria and that's in the suite. So
That's so cool.
That's awesome.
yeah, it's crazy because
Yeah.
I mean, and what's funny is that once I got saved, and then I met her, like my wardrobe didn't change much because I didn't have anything, you know. So I'm still kicking schmedium, dude. I'm still kicking block letter.
Jeff.
Jeff,
Jeff.
what's up?
That's awesome. All right. Continuing in Psalms, it has been good. I hate. I was out of town this weekend helping to shoot a wedding, but we were on the way back and got to listen to it in the car. But
What's that?
Yeah,
Woody Woodpecker's knocking on the wall behind us. I can't really hear anything.
this is going to be a struggle. I hope they can't. I hope our listeners can't hear, but also I hope they. I don't know,
because
feel
it's
the
constant.
pain.
I mean,
Yeah,
it is like
I'm struggling.
It's like Woody Woodpecker's in your ear. Yeah.
Yeah, it's rough.
I wonder what. Oh, you know what that is? I know what that is. They're busting rock for the elevator pit.
Oh, are they really?
I was up there earlier after our staff meeting. I walked through the building to just check it out.
Well, that's exciting.
And they're digging the elevator pit right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, good. That's
a
exciting.
lot of rock in that thing, bro.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Rocky Top, Tennessee.
Man, you got that right.
So yeah, getting into this Psalm 37, very simple. Me and Patty were
Thank
talking before,
you.
just a very simple message.
Thank you.
Very basic.
Thank you. Of course.
You got the reality of the struggle and the
So
reality
you're
of
telling me
hope.
I'm probably not going to be invited to a theological conference any day?
The theological eggheads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any day.
I mean, I'm not
the
either.
rest of
so-
my life.
When
Probably
me-
not.
Yeah. When
all
it
good.
connects to people like me, it's pretty simple. But the reality of the struggle, I think a lot of people, we were talking a little bit before, I think a lot of people are living in that kind of just reality of the struggle of this life. You got the struggle of anger and envy and the struggle of hopelessness. A lot of the Psalms, I mean, Psalms are essential. They're all songs, right, that were written?
Yes.
And so a lot of them are like, oh, I delight in the Lord. And it's like this beautiful, some of them are David like lamenting or like in the struggle. This one has, and you kind of pulled this out, but it just very practical life, application to it, which is pretty cool.
Why are you talking so loud?
The knocking stopped. Thank
Still hear
goodness.
it. Do you
For a
still hear
minute.
it?
Yeah.
Oh,
There it is. And it's back.
So let's get into the struggle a little bit. So you brought up the struggle of anger and envy, and the struggle of hopelessness.
Yeah.
Is that the only struggle that we deal with? Obviously not. What are some other struggles that we deal with?
I think this is just a really good, honest view of, and I think I tried to frame it this way, and because if you're not really living as a disciple of Christ,
Yeah.
you're not going to really feel the tension.
Right.
But if you're really trying to live as a disciple of Jesus and really have this view that we're supposed to be image bearers for Him, and so it matters how we live, it matters what we do, it matters how we love, like all those things matter. Then you're going to look around you and you're going to hear, and when you think about the amount of information we get today versus what we got 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it's so funny. Julie and I were talking about this over the weekend on, how many things in our life we remember not having that our kids now have. Which is crazy because, cell phones and all those types of things. And I mean, I remember trying to figure out what in the world an email was, and just all those types of things. And so the amount of information that we're receiving now makes this even worse.
Yeah.
Right? Because unless you read a newspaper, 20, 30, 40 years ago, whatever it was, you didn't get this information, right? Not to the degree that we do now. So it's really easy to get very frustrated because of social media. Everybody has a voice. Everybody has an opinion. So all these things are flooding at us. So it's easier now. I think the struggle is greater now than it has been in the past. So you look around us and you just go, what in the world? Right? What's going on? And then just take it to a personal level. Sometimes the things that happen to us, the things that we go through, the pain, the struggle, the bad things we would say, and you look around and you look at people who just hate God and they, and you're like, they don't go through that. And you go, where's the fairness in that? Where's the justice in that? And why is that happening? And I think that's what David's talking about. I referenced Asaph in Psalm 73 the same way. And you just go, like, there's just something about that is just not fair.
Yeah.
And it's really, the word David used literally means to glow or to blow up. When he says, don't be agitated. Yeah. Don't get agitated. Don't get angry. So it was much more than just a level of frustration. It's really this where it just gets so much under your skin, man, you can't even live with it.
Yeah, for sure. In the world we live, we were talking about this some at lunch, like there's so many things going on and everything's so accessible. It's easy for, I think, people in our world to almost play the victim card. It's easy, even if you're not doing it intentionally, to kind of feel that weight of, you see everybody else complaining about all the different things. And so you feel like, well, yeah, these things are happening to me too. So like I've got this and this and this issue. How do we learn to live in that? Obviously we live through the hope of Jesus, but what does that look like practically for us to live in the hope of Jesus when literally our world is surrounded with that?
There's a part of me that wishes that people would be more honest about this. Because I mean, it's real. And I don't know, well, I do know. We created over the last 100 years a culture in our churches, at least in the Southeast, that basically sets up this view that you come and you put on your best clothes and your best shoes and your best face and your best attitude, and you come to church. And so much of it is pretend. So much of it is not really who we are. It's not how we feel, and it's not because it's not really community. You're going to an event. So present yourself well at an event.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of just coming to a place where you can have community with people, be honest with people, and just share, it's just sometimes it just stinks. Like you get into the idea of envying the ungodly, because you look at the ungodly and you look at them prospering. And you see them having all the stuff and making all this money and living all these lavish lifestyles. Yeah. And when that's just it's not who we are, it's not what we're strive for. But you look at that and you go, their life has to be easier than mine. Mm-hmm. And how is it that we're following Jesus and trying to do the right things, and yet their lives seem to be easier than mine? Mm-hmm. Like that's a difficult. One thing is to deal with just the frustration of the world and morals and all of that. But to get down to the nitty gritty of, man, we're struggling to make it, and these people out there are just killing it and driving their big fancy cars and doing this and living these lavish lifestyles and traveling, and we'll never see those days. Yeah. And we're the ones that are trying to do what's right. That's just like that doesn't come from our spirit; it comes from our flesh.
Right.
But hey, guess what? Your flesh is real.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of Psalms is a lot of it is, man, here's the struggle, but then here's the, you got to let the spirit win over the flesh, right? You got to let the strong man win. And so the strong man has got to be our spirit like that. And he is. We just have to let him win.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it makes me think of it's that wrestling that we live in, knowing the end of the story and knowing what the future, what eternity holds.
Right.
And we know that because of Jesus, we have struggles now, but that's not the end of the story. Like this life isn't all we have.
That's right.
But having a limited view now at the same time is difficult. There was a lady that I think it was 2 years ago in New York that some of our team members met up with and prayed with for a little bit. And she was Hindu, which they're big on karma and good karma, bad karma, all that. And she's won the lottery like 2 or 3 times.
Wow.
Like is very devout in her faith and believes and is a good person and attributes her winning the lottery to being that's good karma. So like, how do you argue with that? Yeah. Like in this world, you've got someone who like, they believe that this is the case, that if they're good, then the good thing's going to happen to them. Right. And she's won the lottery. Like, so how do you show her the truth of the gospel in the midst of that? And I think for us, we were reminded this year, not that we saw any like demonic activity or anything, but per se, but I think just as much as demons and spirits can have negative influences in people's life, they can also, and I think we maybe sometimes see this more in America than the other, but I think they also have the power to give people the earthly things that they want to create positive change, to affirm the worldly desires that we have, the fleshly desires that we wrestle with. Yeah. And so you think about that and like understanding that, yes, she's getting money or whatever it may be, but that's still not going to satisfy her long term, and that's not going to seal her fate long term. And so being burdened for that, but it's a tough.
Well, what's interesting about that is, when Satan tempted Jesus, he told him, he said, look at all the kingdoms of the world. Yeah. I'll give them to you. You just got to bow down to me. Mm-hmm. And we always think about that and think, man, was Satan given the right to provide those things for others? And I believe that Satan can do that. I think he's been given limited power, obviously, under the authority of God, but I think he has the authority to do that. And I think you see that a lot in the world, because I think if we can be convinced that this is our best life, you always hear that phrase, man, I'm living my best life. Man, a believer should never say that. Yeah. Like, this is not our best life. I'm not saying this is a bad life, but it's not our best life. Mm-hmm. Man, our best life is going to be when we're with Christ in eternity. Yeah. Like when we're with Jesus in eternity and we're spending all of eternity with him and we're in the new heaven and the new earth and we're in our glorified bodies, and like that's going to be our best life. Yeah. Right? And that's coming. And this is just a minuscule amount of time compared to eternity, but it is our reality. Mm-hmm. So, like I said before, we can either stick our heads in the sand and act like this doesn't exist, or hear what the psalmist says and realize, man, the struggle's real. Yeah. The struggle's real. We're going to look around and we're going to envy and we're going to get agitated and angry. and we've got to know what to do with that when that happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So living with this wrestle, living in the struggle, we're reminded here of the reality of our hope. So we trust in the Lord, we delight in the Lord, we commit our ways to the Lord, and we rest in the Lord. What does this, I mean, there's 4 steps there, but what does this look like for us to practically live this out? It's obviously 4 things that are fairly simple and by nature, but what does this actually look like for us to trust in the Lord, delight in the Lord, commit our ways to the Lord, and to rest in the Lord?
Yeah, I think they're all pretty, like they're individual, but I think they not feed off each other, but they lead into each other. That I think it starts off with trusting in the Lord, and 2 things he said there. The first thing he said was do good, like do good, and sometimes there are times. Like when you trust in the Lord, and trusting in the Lord to me doesn't mean that you're going to see why it makes sense. Because there's sometimes it just doesn't make any sense. And so we trust in the Lord. So trust in the Lord means I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to do what he says to do because I'm going to trust him that whatever he said is going to happen is going to happen. And I use the illustration of coaching because it's so realistic. I mean, you guys just would not believe how realistic it is that literally I could tell a kid at a certain level. Now, please understand, I'm not saying I'm making state champs out of this, but at a certain level in wrestling, I could take a kid who had never won a match and say to him, if you will listen to me, and if you'll do this, this, and this, you're going to win. But you got to trust me, dude, because I've been there, I've done it, I know it works, so just trust me. And I would have a handful of kids who would do that. And I would have some who just wouldn't, and they're going to figure it out themselves. They're going to try to do it themselves. They're going to fight it, and wrestle a different way. And I just go, I'm just telling you, man, if you'll just listen to me, you're going to. And so I had certain kids. Ryan Brown was one of those kids who, and he was a really good athlete. And I had him, I think the first year I coached at Lebanon. And man, great kid, great athlete. And he listened to me. And he ended up being, I think, 3rd in the state that year. But, man, beat some really tough kids. Because I would just tell him, I said, Ryan, do this, do this, do this. And he was that kid that could just do that to the T. And you see it worked. Now, probably the best kid I ever coached up there was a kid named Eli Clemens. And I love Eli to death. But when he was a 10th grader and I got a hold of him, man, he was the most stubborn kid I've ever coached. And he would not get up off the bottom. And I said, listen, dude, if you're going to wrestle in college, you got to learn how to escape. So just do this, and you got to trust me. Well, no, I like to roll around on the mat, I like to do this, this, and this. Trust me, get off the bottom. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you lose the match. I don't care if you get a takedown. I want you to get up off the bottom. And there was one match early in when we started that he literally got down to the bottom and got on his elbows and stared at me. Bro wasn't going to stand. He wasn't going to do it. He was not going to do it. And
some of the kids we were talking about earlier.
Yeah,
some of the toddlers.
Yeah. And he eventually came around. He wrestled in college, had a great career, and was one of the best kids ever coached. But sometimes it's just hard. There's something in us that says, I don't want to trust that. Yeah. I want to figure it out myself. And so that's why he says, trust in the Lord, do good, just do good. So even in the midst of us looking at our world and we don't agree with it, and sometimes it angers us, man, go love your neighbor. Love your neighbors yourself. They may not reciprocate that. Continue to love your neighbor. Love your enemies. Pray for your enemies. Like the things that Jesus calls us to do those things. When we're doing those things, the Lord, one of the things that we don't understand is that God supernaturally is doing things in our lives that doesn't make sense. So we have to trust what he says in his word. Yeah. And when we do those things, man, we see those results happen. So you trust in the Lord first. Like that's the first thing you have to do. And he he gives us those examples, and then he kind of goes from there.
So trust in his plan and his timing.
That's it. Yeah, yes, 100%.
Yeah. I've been praying with a couple who are struggling, with infertility, and it's just so difficult to counsel them correctly and pray with them correctly because the mother's heart is. I grieve as a mother to mother. I'd grieve for her as they're waiting, and so. It's just such a struggle, and that's all I know to do is to point back, just trust in the Lord's timing. And his ways. His ways may not look like ours. The way a child comes to you may not be what you envisioned.
Right.
But it will be his way.
Right.
You got to trust it.
Well, and I think that's where it gets down into that next point of delight in the Lord, and He'll give you the desires of your heart.
Yeah.
You know, because you know, there are a lot of things. Here's the thing we got to remember about like a passage like that. Jesus isn't going to give us anything that we would substitute for Him. So delight in the Lord, He'll give you the desires of your heart. Well, our heart desires what satisfies us. So if we think something materialistic is going to satisfy us, why in the world would we think if we delight in Him, He's going to give us that? He's not going to give us anything that we would run to for our source of satisfaction other than Him. So when we delight in Him, what He does is He changes our desires. Our desires change. We start desiring Him more. So He gives us the desire of our heart. He becomes the desire of our heart. And when He becomes the desire of our heart, you know, I use the illustration of my chair, or, you know, but the point that made sense to me was, because really the word delight, it's an interesting Hebrew word. It means luxurious, plush. So you kind of get this idea of something that surrounds you and is very comfortable, and you feel safe in it. You feel secure. You feel good. You know, you know, sometimes you put on a jacket or a coat or a shirt or whatever, and it's like, man, that just feels good. You know. And so this is kind of that word. And so you think, you know, what do I surround myself with to find comfort? And of course, I went straight to my chair because, you know, I'll say to Julie, you guys hear me say this, man, I need more chair time. Like when I'm relaxing, I'm in my chair, you know, and I just know when I'm in my chair, I'm in my place.
Yeah.
You know, and so because it surrounds me with, and then there are other times when you're surrounded with your family. So whatever that is, right? And so take that, and He's saying, delight yourself in the Lord. Find your comfort in Him. Surround yourself in Him. You know, run to Him. So let Him be your source of comfort. Not that there's anything wrong with those other things, but the more I'm finding my delight, comfort in Him, my desires for more of that. Right? So like if I'm finding my comfort in my chair, if I'm finding my comfort in my vacation spot, whatever it is, well, what do you desire more of? More of whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
So like I want to figure out how to get to that more. What happens when we start desiring Jesus more? Man, I want to figure out how to get to that more, right? And so then our eyes and our heart goes away from the things of the world, and now we're desiring Him. We talked earlier, Cameron, I can't remember what the context was, you mentioned this, but you know, so many people today want to die. Well, they don't want to die, but they have this comfort level of dying because they're going to go to some amazing place with streets of gold and gates of pearl and mansions of glory, and like that they're thinking about this great subdivision they couldn't afford to live in here, that they're going to get to live in heaven for free.
Yeah.
They're like, man, I can't wait to get there. It's going to be awesome. And I'm not saying it's not that. But is that what we're delighting in?
Yeah.
You know, like what you've heard me, I've said this before, man. Our evangelism strategy, most of my Christian life, has been selling heavenly real estate. You know, it's almost like it's a timeshare pitch. Man, let me tell you about this amazing place you can go to. It's awesome. Here's all you got to do to go there. And just sign on the dotted line. That's all I got to do. Yeah, pray this prayer. Call Jesus Lord, you're good. It all opens up to you. Man, so just live your life. When you die, you're good. I'm like, really? Wow, that's amazing. You know, that's not what it means to follow Jesus. And so I think, what do we delight in? You know, David says our delight, like you'll never understand this world. Because here's the thing. Will this world we live in ever make sense? Like, is there ever a point in our lives we get spiritually mature enough, we get old enough, we get wise enough that the world makes sense? As I'm going to say, as a believer in Christ, the answer to that's no. Right? Because there's always going to be that tension.
Yeah.
And so if that's the case, how do I survive in that? Because here's what I've seen. If I focus on the world, the longer I do that, the more I become the conspiracy theory guy. Because why do people do that? Like, have you ever dug into some of the conspiracy theories that are out there?
Oh, yeah.
And how crazy it is? It's crazy.
Yep.
And everything from the moon landing to anything else you can imagine, there's a conspiracy theory around it. And so why would spiritual people spend any time in that genre? Because you're trying to figure out the world.
Yeah.
Like, it's got to make sense. And none of this stuff makes sense. So I got to run to this information and try to make that information make sense.
Yeah.
Instead of just realizing, just delight yourself in the Lord. And he'll give you the desires of your heart. Because when our heart's desire is Jesus, he didn't have any problem pouring more of himself into us.
Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes they're pretty entertaining too.
They're entertaining. I'm not saying that they're not. But, it's interesting now because of social media, you've got podcasts that are just dedicated to the conspiracy theories.
Oh, yeah.
And it's unbelievable, man.
You can go down a
You want to talk
deep
about going
rabbit
down
hole.
a rabbit hole. And there are even spiritual conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
And people and you can just run down it's just amazing, I'm not saying this is a conspiracy theory, but this is a theological view. Like right now, what seems to be popular because of all that's happening in Israel is that the church is the new Israel. And so it's interesting. Like if you start listening to kind of that vein of thinking, what all that leads to and means. So anyway, all that to say, you can find what you're looking for.
Oh yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
So the idea and view is delight yourself in the Lord. And I think it's what David's saying, because when we look at the world and try to make sense of it, we want to do that because we want something to be right.
Yeah.
Like we want the world to be right. The world's never going to be right until Jesus comes and he enacts the rest of his plan.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting about that is he's not going to make this world right. This world goes away. There's a new heaven and a new earth. So this world, like right at the end of, I think it's Revelation 21 going into 22, it talks about the earth and the sky fled from his presence. Like they were destroyed. And then comes the new heaven and the new earth. So, we're actually living in a world and in just in an information economy that is going away. That's going away. It's not going to be repaired. So again, going back to the struggle, it's real and it will continue to be worse. We've got to figure out how do we function as image bearers of Christ in all of that.
Yeah.
Man, trust in the Lord. Then we got to delight in Him. Right. Then the next one we talked about was committing our ways to Him.
Yeah.
And so really letting, that word commit, have confidence in, like to really let Him commit. We commit all that we're doing to Him, so that what we're doing is not just what we want to do. Christ, what is it that you want me to do?
Right.
Where do you want me to be? And to understand that God is at work in this world. We've got this view that God's not at work. He's not at work until we decide to go to work.
Yeah.
And then when we get a fancy plan and we start working, we ask God to bless it, and He's like, "Whoo, I'm so glad somebody's doing something." Man, God's not waiting on us.
Yeah.
He didn't need us.
Yeah.
But He invites us to be a part of what He's doing.
Yeah.
So, I think committing our ways to the Lord is more of us lining ourselves up with Him instead of getting Him to line up with us.
For sure. So those obviously make sense. Trust in the Lord, delight in Him, find our satisfaction in Him, commit our ways to Him. I think we think or are taught even a lot of times that living out the good Christian life is you're serving the church, you're doing all these things. But that last one I think we struggle with probably the most is resting in the Lord. What does it mean for us, myself being a busybody at times? How do we rest in the Lord? What does that mean to rest in the Lord without being lazy?
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Patty, are you somebody who, like, would it bother you to like be in a room and be silent for hours?
No.
And that that's kind of what I thought. Like I thought that probably is not a hard thing for you to think about.
Unless people were just being stupid.
True.
I might have to speak up. And I say stupid because it's your word.
Yes, 100%.
So we're relating to each other.
Well, what's funny is you just said that. I'm like, man, she's starting to figure it out. That's awesome. I almost said the older you get, the less tolerance you have for stupid.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, I think I go back to my grandfather. My dad's dad was super quiet,
Yeah.
rarely spoke, but you knew he was listening. And it wasn't until you totally messed up.
Right.
They'd be like, yeah, I saw that happening. And that's all there was.
And that was it.
You know,
Nice.
he saw us do stupid things.
Yes. Yes.
And let us fail.
Yeah.
So we
Sometimes
can
you got to do that,
self-correct.
though. Sometimes you got to do that,
Yeah.
though. Yeah. Be silent before the Lord and wait expectantly for him. Which that word silent can be also be translated to be still or to rest. So just the whole be silent and be still. So like you, me, those of us who can't do that, we think it literally means to be paralyzed, to sit and not say a word, like all those types of things. And I don't really think that's what this means. I think when it says, like, because you got to go back to the context of what he's first dealing with. He's dealing with agitation and envy, and getting involved in the side of our world that we probably shouldn't even be worrying about. So I think that's what he means by that. I think when he says be silent or be still before the Lord and wait expectantly on him, I think that means, look, here's two sides of your life that you can think about. You can look at the world you're living in, get really upset about it, get frustrated about the injustice that you see, get frustrated about the unfairness that you see, man, get really agitated about your world and the world you live versus other. So you could do that. Or you could just rest from that, be still from that, be silent, don't do, or just come over here and realize that this is the world that God's called you to live in. This is what he's provided for you. Like you go back to commit your way to the Lord. He talked about dwell in the land and live securely, right? So look where you are. This is the world he's called you to live in, and just wait expectantly for him.
Yeah.
So I can either focus on this, which I can't do anything about, or I can come over here and I can live in the world that he's called me to and live with hope. But this idea of being still, to me, now you guys could disagree with this, but I think when he says be still, be silent, rest, he's saying don't go over here and deal in a world you got nothing, you can't do anything about. Now, let me refrain and say this. We are supposed to be involved in our world to share the light of Christ and to show people Jesus, and we should do that. But the idea of, and this, people have different eschatological views. My eschatological view says to me that this world is going to continue to get worse and worse and worse. I'm not going to fix the world. I'm not going to change the world. But I can affect the lives of individuals I come across in the world that can't be fixed. So what have I been called to do? Go change that like make the world right? Bring justice to the world? I can't do that.
Yeah.
Never been called to do that.
Right.
Man, wait expectantly for him. What is he coming to do? He's coming to bring justice.
Yeah.
And it's called swift justice. Man, when he comes, it almost like it's painting the picture that we're trying to do in this world only what Jesus can do. So he's saying, rest from that. Be silent there. Be still. You can't do that. Now, the tension comes in there when people will then kind of pop up and say, well, then are we not supposed to be involved in trying to make our world a better place? So shouldn't we protest against this? Shouldn't we rise up against this? Shouldn't we, so boom, 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 boom. And so I think there's a healthy tension there, that I don't think we're supposed to be pacifists and just sit back and do nothing. But I also think from the passage like this, we're not supposed to be people who are out there trying to change the world we live in and being really frustrated because we can't, because you can't. We can't bring justice to the world. And so there is that healthy tension there. So I'm not saying it's one or the other, but when I read this verse, it says, be still and wait patiently, wait expectantly on him.
Yeah.
So, he's coming to do his part. He's called me to do my part. Okay, what is our part? Man, to be image bearers of Jesus, to love our neighbor as ourselves. And it's amazing when you look at Jesus commanding his disciples. Have you guys seen the 5th season of Chosen? Man, dude, it's crazy. It's good. It's like it's all based around the Last Supper.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it's good, man. And I know people have differing views of that, but it kind of really fits a passage like this because it shows the disciples struggling with what Jesus is saying and how it really doesn't fit their world. And it's just kind of cool based on a passage like this. But over and over, the character playing Jesus is telling them, do what I've called you guys to do. They're going to know you by your love for each other. Love your neighbors. Like he's just over and over again. And that's what he's called us to do, is to love. And the thing that we don't understand is that we can generate obedience where we cannot generate love for our enemies. It's just not in us. And only the Spirit of God can do that in us. So until we start demonstrating to a lost and dying world something that we could not generate in and of ourselves, they will never see Jesus. So, yeah. So I don't do a bunch of bad stuff. Okay. Are they seeing Jesus in that? So I attend a lot of services. Are they seeing Jesus in that? Man, I'm loving people that I am not built to love. Are they going to see Jesus in that? Absolutely.
Yeah.
He said they would, right? As a body of Christ, we're loving each other. Are they going to see Jesus in that? He said they would. So I think it goes back to, what did he say they would see? How would they see him? Love God with all of your heart, soul, and mind. Love your neighbors yourself.
They will know you by your love.
Yeah, they're going to know you by your love for each other.
Yeah.
Love your enemies. Pray for your enemies. It's those types of things that we don't like because that's not who we want to be. We want justice, and we want things to be right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't mind that in our hearts because, yes, there's a part of us that boils up for that, but we can't create that.
Right. Well, when you said, like, a lot of people talk about trying to make the world a better place, and that's fine. But like looking at Jesus' life, did he come to make the world a better place? I don't know that. I mean, obviously he brought joy, he brought hope, he brought true love to the world. He is God in flesh and came to us. So naturally that's going to bring something to this world. But his goal wasn't to make the world a better place. His goal was to bring hope despite the sinfulness and brokenness of the world, that the world can now be reunited to him. The way that he lived his life wasn't to fix things in the world, but to bring true life and to bring hope to that world. So,
and even what he did through his healings, through feeding, through any of those types of things, he did it to reveal the glory of his Father and his glory, and not to try to fix everything.
Yep.
Because all of those things are going to be fixed in time. And he has a time that he's going to do those things. We're to wait expectantly for him and be still, delight in him. And that's the way that we show people who we are.
Right.
Instead of making our stand. I just, like you guys, that some of us who have, and like Cameron, I know you all have, Patty, you go to these places where they don't have 1,200 people coming on a Sunday in the middle of June to hear somebody talk about Jesus.
Yeah.
Right? Like you just can't go do that. It just doesn't exist in places outside of, for the most part, the southeastern part of the Bible Belt. To Midwest, there's this section of our country that still comes to hear that, and the majority of our country doesn't. So how are they going to know? It's that you love them enough to go up there and spend time supporting missionaries who are giving their life to reach people for Jesus. Right. And they will rejoice if they have 4 or 5 people a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Man, you know, I don't want to. It sounds arrogant because I want to say we're getting that every Sunday because we're not. That's not the point. But the point is that, you know, we sometimes in our part of the country forget what the rest of our country, not just the world, the rest of the United States deals with when it comes to trying to show people the gospel.
Yeah.
And who Jesus is.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good stuff.
So.
One caveat on the whole chair conversation for any of the guys who are now looking for chairs, make sure you get one that if you have a wife that she approves of the color, because I had a chair that I loved in college, but it was green and it eventually got vetoed.
Well,
I loved that chair.
Yeah, but here's the deal.
It was like a green leather.
Yeah.
It wasn't pretty, but
so let me say this about your chair. Let me say this about your chair to you young guys. Anything you owned before you got married doesn't count.
Well, that's true. That's a good point.
It doesn't count, dude. Like you don't get to carry it over.
That was the college chair.
Into.
Yeah.
Let me give you a marriage tip. I'm gonna give you a marriage tip. This is the best marriage tip, and I think I just developed this because of my personality. I don't think anybody told me this, but when it comes to your home, you don't need to have any care or concern about what happens in there other than you live there. Mm. Dude, you let your wife just do whatever she wants to do when it comes to your house. Paint color, flooring. Now, you may have to look at the financial part of it, which is what I do. But as far as anything else, I don't care. Because if you don't care, and dude, that's her place where just give me a chair. Like, just let me have a chair. You get 99.8% of what happens in this house. 0.2, I just want a chair. And I'll make sure that it kind of fits with everything else that we've got. Other than that, like we just got a new kitchen sink. A stainless 1-bowl kitchen sink. I didn't need to look at that. Like, I don't care. I didn't need to know how deep it is or what it is or like, I don't care. It kills me to hear these.
Wash dishes and you go and do your job washing them.
Yeah, like it kills me to hear these guys go, we got in a fight the other day about what color we're going to paint our walls. Are you kidding me? Dude, you're going to have a whole lot of other things to worry about other than something like that. So just, I've just learned over my years, man, like that's Julie's space, and whatever she wants to do in there, as long as we can afford it, and I won't even say, and it makes sense. As long as we can afford it, I don't care if it makes sense. I mean, it doesn't matter. Now, I may say, have we thought about this? Have we looked at this? But I just, like today, she says, hey, when you come home, we're going to hang some pictures. Okay. Do I care where they go? No. Do I care how high? No. Like, I don't care. Just hang the pictures. What do you think about that? Oh, it's awesome.
That's great.
Her being happy is a whole lot more important to me than where those pictures are.
There you go.
So, listen to me, guys. Like, y'all need to let go of that. Let go of that.
So I have a chair story that involves my dad. So if you know my dad, he's kind of tall. He's like 6'2"-ish. And my mom wanted to do something really nice for him and buy him a new chair. He didn't want a new chair.
No.
But she wanted to buy him a new chair because...
Yeah, that's sweet.
Or
she didn't like his old one. Bingo! Come on, man.
Hey, we're going to go buy Dad a new chair. Long story short, went to this nice place, got a beautiful leather chair.
Yeah.
So she gets it delivered, and Dad sits in it, puts the recliner part up, and his feet hang off. Like she's like, I didn't think about the size.
See? I'm telling you, a guy knows what his chair needs to be.
So I now have the chair.
Yeah. Oh, you do? There you go. Nice.
Marriage tip of the day.
Yeah. Marriage tip of the day.
All right.
Let it go.
That's all.
As they once said in a Disney movie.
Let it go.
Let it go. All right. I'm out.
All the things.
Can't hold it
back.
That's all I
got, dude. I got no more.
Thank y'all for listening.
No more wisdom.
See you next week.
See you next week.